Tiny Huge Island has one of the most standout gimmicks in all of Mario 64. And honestly, I wouldn't argue against someone too much if they claimed it was the most standout gimmick in the entire Mario series. It makes a stage extremely memorable as a result, and oftentimes people remember the gimmick of the stage more than the actual stars. Casual gamers, or even non-gamers that played Mario 64 as a kid, will usually remember maybe half of the stages max, and it'll always be because of the aesthetic. Bob-omb Battlefield, Whomp's Fortress will usually get mentioned first, primarily because of the early stages. They might mention a fire level, a snow level, a ghost level, a clock level at most. Maybe a water level. But the point is, these stages will get remembered because of some kind of theme or setting, or usually an aesthetic related to elements. Tiny Huge Island usually clicks in someone's mind though, even though it's just a typical grassland stage. And obviously, this is because of the notorious stage gimmick that either shrinks the stage or blows everything up in size. Or I guess it might shrink Mario and blow him up in size. I'm not sure. Although I think I do have an argument that it's the former. When you enter the room that holds a Tiny Huge Island painting, if you run into the painting straight ahead, it's a dead end. But if you turn right or left, the hallway will play a bit of an illusion trick on you and make Mario feel like he's either huge or tiny before entering into the stage. But regardless of which way you turn, Mario is the same size. The only thing that is changing around him is the path leading up to the painting and the size of the painting itself. Which for me means there are actually two different Tiny Huge Islands that exist in the universe, and Mario travels between the two of them via the green pipes. He's not shrinking and increasing in size as he enters those pipes, the stage is. Hence why it's called Tiny Huge Island and not Tiny Huge Mario. It's the island that has two different dimensions, one huge and one tiny. I personally wanted to discuss this point more than the actual stars, so I'll try not to drag all of that out as much as my last couple of videos. This one's a bit harder to go through because of the two different sized islands, but as a general rule of thumb, you should expect to spend some time bouncing between the sizes and experimenting with the exploration to figure out where you need to be and how to grab a star. A lot of the stage will be trial and error. When you're on Tiny Island, Mario will be massive and he'll be able to get around everything fairly easily, and quickly. When you're on Huge Island, the stage will probably be bigger than any other one in the game. The catch is the stars aren't in both locations. You have to collect each one while you're a specific size. The first star, Pluck the Piranha Plants, is pretty close to where you are at the start of the stage, but you might not even realize that unless you're big because you can't swim over to this location when you're small. So you'd have to search around the stage looking for the Piranha Plants and then know to shrink yourself down in that area and defeat all of the larger Piranha Plants to get the star. The star will get you acquainted with the stage gimmick fairly quickly. You might take forever to figure out the star specifically because it's the first one, but that should get your methods in order and allow you to get comfortable with how to search in the stage for stars. Star number 2 is at the tip top of the Huge Island, so Mario will be little here and traverse his way all the way up to the peak. Again, this stage is very open with multiple different routes and multiple chances for experimentation through different sizes, so it's on you to mess around with the strange gimmicks to find your preferred means of traversal. You can swing across to the left and jump into the pipe to change sides or work your way around the outside of the stage while avoiding cannonballs, or you can do a few backflips and skip through the water area and work your way up through the nearest warp pipe. It's basically on the player to determine how they want to make it up there. I do think it's funny that the star is titled Top of Huge Island because it's actually more your favorite star off the stage with the Tiny Island, but I can really only say that in hindsight. But still, I think it's better off from a first time perspective because it'll be a good opportunity to get through the challenge the more difficult way, unless you're experimental enough to try it the easy way. The third star is a rematch with Koopa the Quick. You'll need to find him. And not to get repetitive, but you'll do the whole 2 island search all around until you figure it out. It shouldn't actually be that hard to figure out that he's a Huge Island star though. But he's also in one of the further locations from where you begin the stage, so this star just gives you another opportunity to mess around with the stage and learn different routes. Also, the race itself is much harder than the previous race, so good luck. You might not only lose, you might fall off the bottomless pit and lose a life. 5 Itty Bitty Secrets is an exploration star in Tiny Island. There will be random locations throughout the map that a curious player might want to interact with when they're in larger size because they stick out in locations you can't access. Mostly doorways or holes around the stage that if you were in Huge Island, you would simply just run through or to enter a different area. It's pretty straightforward once you start getting an eye for what exactly you're looking for. You just need to figure out that you're meant to be on Tiny Island throughout, and that should be easy based off the name of the star anyway. It's a decent scavenger hunt. Also, keep in mind Tiny Island is very easy to fall off of and lose a life by accident, so you have to be careful. Star number 5 is Wiggler's Red Coins. It's not explicitly stated, and a player might even figure out by sheer curiosity and exploration, but the Red Coin star is across the narrow path above the sandy area near the water that leads directly into the cave. At one point or another, it might be during the previous stars, a player will likely try to enter that area and then notice there's red coins. Finding it isn't the worst challenge, but you're really going to be enjoying the exploration aspect of the stage to figure out that you need to be inside that cave. And what's worse is the challenge in there is also fairly difficult. Although once again, not the worst challenge you'll face and overall very beatable. Finally, star number 6 is Make Wiggler Squirm. I'm probably sounding like a broken record by now, but this is all about the exploration and problem solving. You need to be on Tiny Island, head over to the top of the island and hip drop. It'll play a jingle and drain the water. Head back down, change to Huge Island. Work your way back up there and enter from the hole at the top of the island. You'll stand on some mesh and face off against Wiggler. It's similar to the red coin star in that figuring it out will be a difficult but fair objective, but with the red coins, the actual coin collecting is a lot more of a platforming challenge with a decent difficulty. And with Make Wiggler Squirm, it's a boss fight with a decent difficulty. Take on Wiggler and you'll get your 6th star. I'm probably being a bit unfair in saying this, but I think the 100 coin collection star is the worst in the game. Or maybe second worst behind Shifting Sandlands. Keep in mind there's like over 200 coins here, so in theory that should make it easy. The problem lies in the fact that the easiest way to get around everything is when Mario is larger than the stage, but it's also the easiest way to bump into a dinky micro Goomba and fall to your death. There are just too many ways here, both in Tiny Island and Huge Island, that a player could collect a whole lot of coins and then be forced to start over. Heck, you could literally get eaten by a fish. You might try and experiment with a cannon in the stage and that'll lead to a loss of a life. I realize this is how most 3D platformers play, but it feels like everything in the stage is trying to kill you at all times. So really, it's not a difficult coin collecting challenge, it's more like a difficult survival challenge. Which is fine because in all of the stars beforehand, you'll be doing enough searching to make up for it. I have less to say about this course, but it's primarily because it's so wide open and has so many standout moments as you run through the stage that going through all of the various environments wouldn't really make all that much sense since nothing is really on a main path. Because there isn't a main path. From a design perspective, this is a really good sandbox stage in my opinion. And I could easily see it flourishing if it was a retro remade stage in a future title. It's fun to run around and look everywhere, and due to the size changing gimmick and uniqueness of the star missions and their locations, you'll likely spend quite a bit of time in here. This stage is mostly about exploration. What Dry World was also about exploration, and I thought that stage was better off because of the water level gimmick adding a dynamic sense to the exploration. Likewise, I think the stage uses the 2 different islands to make the exploration aspect of it even more enjoyable. I don't know exactly when people started hating the stage, but I don't really think it needs to be hated. Hard stages don't have to automatically be shrugged off as broken or frustrating or game ruining. They can just be hard, and it's on the player to learn to get through it. There's something about the latter half of this game that just angers people, and I don't know, it just feels like there's a lot of inconsistent complaints sometimes. Like, Telltale Mountain is disliked because it's linear, and Tiny Huge Island is hated because it's an open sandbox. Honestly, the stars aren't even that ridiculously absurd or too difficult to find. I don't have too many frustrating memories of this stage really giving me or anyone I know that many issues. Like I said, we all mostly just liked it because it had a standout and fun gimmick to mess around with. The stars did require some experimentation and searching, but it usually didn't even require an absurd amount of time to take care of those searches. And despite the fact that it's an open sandbox level, I still think it's easier to almost get all of the stars by being sent back to the hub world. Star 1 with the Piranha Flower sending us back could be seen as redundant since the second star is at the tip of the Huge Island, but the whole multiple size things and multiple routes thing will almost certainly make it feel unique. But still, I can dock at a point because it'd be easier to just continue on from there since the objective is an obvious one and you don't need to think too much about where to go, because you just need to go up. Rematch with Koopa the Quick is easier to access from starting the stage over after that. 5 itty bitty secrets too, since you want to be larger. And same with Wiggler's red coins and Make Wiggler Squirm, since they require different sizes. But all the stars here in general give a vague hint, and I think part of their enjoyment is having to jump around with the size gimmick to figure out how to collect the stars, so I don't really find any of them as obtrusive or egregious as many of the other stars that felt redundant for being sent back to the start. The only one I'm going to add to this list is Pluck the Piranha Flowers. And that's only because after you collect the star, you're still pretty close to the start of the stage, so the return to the hub world feels redundant. So after 13 stages and 91 stars, 21 of them feel like they make the game worse, or redundant, or they ruin the experience strictly because of the return to the hub world. But next up is one of 2 stages that people will complain about the most. So let's keep moving forward and reconvene at the conclusion to really get into it. Next up is perhaps one of the most infamous stages in the game, Tick Tock Clock.